Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'll be commentating my quarter and semifinal matches for the Modern Challenge that I won. Actually, my literal first ever Modern Challenge, or challenge in general on Magic Online since I mostly play Arena. But I've been playing some Modern ahead of SCG Baltimore, and I was playing my Mardu Sack deck, which was adapted from my historic list that I was working on with a friend. And I wanted to give the deck a good showing in Modern, and I certainly did so. I ended up splitting the finals, but my opponent would have been someone that I 2-0'd in the Swiss, so I think I had a pretty good shot, but it was just super late, so I was happy to just take the split and go to sleep, because it was a 9 p.m. challenge for me, so that was probably not something I'm too eager to repeat. But yeah, really excited to have done so well. Now the deck is kind of exploding in popularity, so that's been really cool to see. And really quick, before we get into the video, I just want to say I have a sideboard guide for the deck on my Patreon, so definitely go check that out. It's got all the most popular matchups like Nadu, Jeskai Control, Energy, whatnot, and I have some notes on the more popular matchups as well. So if you check that out, do that. But yeah, let's get right into the video. All right, so I'm gonna be watching on 1.5 speed and just I'll just pause it whenever I want to talk about something. But yeah, this was a pretty solid hand, and I've got a nice curve out. Catherinate Mare was bugged. I'm not sure if it still is, so you can't use the energy, but that's fine. It's still you to go 1, 2, 3 into the table if you draw a land. I didn't record my matches in the Swiss because I honestly didn't even expect a top 8 or anything like that, and I just in VC with my friends. But then I top 8 and I was like, well, I better just record my screen so I can go back and review this later. And so here I am reviewing it later. And yeah, Johnny was a pretty solid draw since it is a better 2-drop than Bowmasters. Eldrazi, Eldrazi kind of found to be a pretty solid matchup, despite it like theoretically being not great, since like ramp decks generally tend to line up well into sack. But this deck is just fast enough where you actually end up winning the matchup a lot of the time, especially since their only wrath is All is Dust, which 7 mana is. I mean, it's not that much for this deck specifically, but it's still a decent bit. Yeah, Kozak's command was pretty good here. Slowed me down to the bunch. I was surprised my opponent didn't make Scions here, because usually the choke point for the deck is mana, but I figured that they just must not have a very good hand, which is a great sign for me. So yeah, they scry 2 and draw a card here, and they I mean, just spending 4 mana on turn 2 is pretty good. But I unfortunately missed my land drop here, and I decide what would I decide to do here? It's kind of tough because on one hand, playing a bombardment into a potential wrath isn't great since you want to often you want to do what you want to do is just get a marionette down, deal them a bunch of damage when they wrath, and then get a bombardment down later. And I just also wanted to have the ability to attack if that opportunity would come up. And so here I'm expecting either a second One Ring or a Wrath or something like that, because otherwise my opponent would be pretty dead. So I don't want to overextend into it. So I just pass with Bowmasters up, if I remember correctly, which I think makes a lot of sense, since if they go for an All's Dust, they're taking 3 off the Marionette, and then they're still going to take a bunch more off the Bowmasters. And generally, actually, like the previous turn, I should mention, if I was playing something like Wrath of the Skies, it'd make a lot of sense to play Bombardment, because I'd be able to flip a Johnny in response, or just flip a Johnny and then do it main phase and then 0. But specifically, All's Dust hits Planeswalkers, so that actually would not end up going very well for me. Yeah, pretty happy to see the Talisman here, because it means that there's no Holos coming. But I assume this was second One Ring, otherwise my opponent would just be kind of instantly dead. I get to play Bowmasters, attack for 1 billion, and then Bombardment would be an absurd amount of damage because each creature is 2, and then a Johnny would also flip and deal another 5, 6, 7 damage, something like that. So Ancient Strings means that One Ring's off the well, not off the menu, I suppose, because they could have a soul land, but they end up not exiling a card. So I'm kind of a little confused because I expected my opponent to have something here, but I'm like, well, that's fine. I'm just gonna jam Bowmasters. Didn't want to jam Bowmasters in response to the ring activation because again, that would play into an All is Dust, and I wanted to have the Orcish Bowmasters afterwards. Since every bit of pressure that I could have after the Wrath would help a lot in killing them, and they were already getting pressured by the One Ring, so. Oftentimes you can kind of have a lot of inevitability because of the opponent's One Ring, which is kind of a given to deal them a couple extra damage. Yeah, Kozak's command hits the Marionette. and make some 0/1s to block, and it's just not even close to enough here. So they take 3 damage, and then I play the Bombardment and the Guide of Souls, and then I can flip the Ajani, which the 0 will deal, I think what, 4, 5? Wait, this actually wasn't like a ton over lethal because it's 5 damage plus 5. Oh, this was actually exact. Well, not quite exact. So I had 1 extra, but yeah, despite them killing a creature and jumping 2 more, I was still dealing them 1 more, and then also the 2 damage from the Wall Ring would have like put them dead. So actually, it was a pretty decent margin. So yeah, now we move on to sideboarding. Sideboarding is interesting because there's like theoretically a lot of cards that are kind of mediocre in this matchup. Village Rites is a little slow, so is Fable, so is Flage. I'm actually offboarding in Wear Tear against specifically Eldrazi Tron, so they don't have that many artifacts. They have like Talisman mostly, but I had not really thought of that yet. So you can see me here thinking about exactly how I want to sideboard. I mean, Wear Tear is fine. I just think prefer to try to enact my own game plan. Also, I forgot to board out Chthonian Nightmare for a second. It's not only is it bugged, it's also pretty bad in this matchup because it's just way too slow. I think I realized that in just about a second. But yeah, Fatal Push isn't great because it doesn't hit a lot of creatures, though it does hit Thought Knots here, so I keep in a couple copies. Loyalty is great because I can just take the payoffs, and then Village Right's a little slow. I think I decided to keep in some of the 3 drops, probably, if not all of them. Hey, see me here, questioning whether or not I want Fatal Push. Flage, I think, is pretty mediocre because it's just very slow and kind of the ability to grind doesn't really matter. And yeah, here I figure out that I should cut the Chthonian Nightmare, so I just keep in a Village Rites instead and run it like this. I would probably cut like maybe a Fable and something else to keep the to not bring in the 2 Wear Tears. Or the other way around. I'd probably keep in like, I don't know, a Village Rites and a push or something. Um, yeah, this hand's solid. Also, is really good in this matchup because it applies a lot of pressure single-handedly. And my opponent here hits a Kozilek's Return, which is a huge issue for me. It's an instant speed Pyroclasm. Makes things really awkward. Second Ocelot Pride would ordinarily be really strong since double Ocelot Pride can go pretty crazy, but the Kozilek's Return makes that really awkward, and now my opponent's got red mana. So I'm just kind of figuring out how exactly do I want to play around the Kozilek's Return. Um, and because I can't even necessarily play around it by holding up Bowmasters because I can just Wrath on my turn. So this was an interesting decision point. And to be honest, there's arguments for a lot of different things. Like I could try to force out the Kozilek's Return. I could try to play this Bombardment, take a more conservative line, which is what I end up doing. And the idea between the playing the Bombardment is that the following turn I can play a Johnny, since which I just drew, I can play a Johnny, and then if they go for a Kozilek's Return, I can just flip it in response. And that'll let me like build up a pretty solid board state without playing into the Wrath too much. But yeah, basically every turn they don't kill the All-Slot Pride as well, that's just going to be more pings with Bombardment. So I think now I'm not going to play the Ocelot Pride because that would just be overcommitting it to the Kozilek's Return by I do play the Ajani, I think. There's also an argument to just holding up Bowmasters, but I don't really love doing that here. I think just playing Ajani and forcing the Kozilek's Return and then flipping Ajani. Probably my best bet. I don't know, maybe I pass. I suppose that it's kind of, yeah, here's the Ajani. Yeah, I like this line for myself. Well done. I do also need to worry about the Kozilek's command. If I don't pressure them enough, they can just fire that off and make some Scions, draw some cards. Not a great spot to be in, but they are under a lot of pressure. There's a lot they can have here. Like an Ulzdus would be really bad. 12 mana Emrakul would be kind of awkward. Stuff like that. But I can't really give them too much time because they have a really scary top end. And so I do need to, on some level, try to dodge some of it. Unfortunately, not quite at City's Blessing. I think I've got 9 permanents right now. Yeah, so that would have been some extra damage, unfortunately. And my opponent really should have done this in response to in the end of my second main, so that I wouldn't get the extra token to throw. I'll take it. And so I just throw everything at them, flip the Ajani, the line I described previously. And this actually ends up going pretty well for me. I get some damage in. I have a flip to Johnny. I can start deploying a bunch of threats next turn. So yeah, even might have lethal. Yeah, I think right now I'm trying to figure out if I have lethal if I play Ocelot and Bowmasters. And I think I came to the number 10, right? Because Ocelot plus Bowmasters plus the token from Johnny is 4 damage. Plus I ping them with Bowmasters is 5. Plus I 0 a Johnny. Yeah, so Ocelot, Bowmasters, a Johnny is 4 creatures. I deal them 4, 5 with Bowmasters, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 damage by just throwing my board. And so that is not quite lethal. And so here, I'm gonna get a Rocket Theater and probably Surveil away any lands, keep most non-lands kind of thing. Actually, I keep Thoughtseize on top, I think, because Thoughtseize is really good. It means that I can, take whatever threat they have next turn. And so I Thoughtseize, and I see a hand of just basically nothing. I remember correctly. I think it's just 3 lands plus a spell that I take. We'll see here in a second. Yeah, I take the Kozilek's command, and they've just got 3 lands. I didn't know about the Kozilek's command. I don't know. I already cast the Kozilek's command. I didn't know about the second one. But point is, I play the Silent Clearing since I might have wanted to like play an Aether Hub next turn or something. So having the Silent Clearing already in play, since I know I'm going to use it, and not fetching also because maybe I want to turn a revolt or something like that. Just better to have it in place so I can sack it right away. But yeah, here I deal a bunch of damage, and I'm realizing, oh wait, I can only put them to 2. And then I go, hold on a second. What could they top deck? Do I want to ping down Eldrazi spawn? And so here I am just counting. So mostly I'm worried about 13 mana Emrakul. And because 12 mana Emrakul they can't cast. All their like 7 drops they can. But 13 mana Emrakul, I figure out they have four card types in graveyard. Sorcery, instant, land, and I think tribal instant, Kozilek's command. So because of that, the Emrakul would be 9 mana, so I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 off the lands, and talismans, 7 if they play a land drop per turn. So I would need to leave them with only 1 Scion. And the issue is if I do that, I need to sack everything but 1 creature. So I don't necessarily have lethal the following turn. And I'm also worried about All Is Dust. And I'm thinking, well, if they draw All Is Dust and I can throw 4 damage at them, then I'm really close to just finding lethal with the Silent Clearing. But I think my best bet is actually just passing the turn and hoping they don't rip the 13-man Emrakul. And would you guess what happened? They started tapping mana, and I'm thinking, oh no. This was kind of brutal. So of course I go to cycle my creatures, and now the funny thing is, if I find a creature on my draw step, or I suppose my opponent finds a creature on my draw step, then they can play it and then use a Johnny to kill itself. They 0 a Johnny, deal 2 damage to a Johnny, finish off the bombardment. They can kind of use my board against me. That's why I'm sacrificing my creatures here. They don't get to use them with bombardment and Emrakul. And so I'm thinking, well, usually it's, well, I need to draw a spell and I win. But in this case, it's I need my opponent to flood out with my deck so that I win. And I have 2 looks at it with the Silent Clearing too. And guess what? Land off the top, I'm thinking, yes, exactly what I need. Because, man, if they hit a spell and they can kill my Johnny, it's looking kind of rough. It would mean that I would need a good top deck, especially since my opponent can put me dead to Emrakul in a single attack. So I would need to draw something that makes you, a Johnny, Marionette, etc. So I'd have a number of draws, but opponent sacks the Silent Clearing, draws another land, and I just breathe this huge sigh of relief. It's really funny. Like, this deck can sometimes have some extra draws since it often plays for a later game and has like somewhat limited flood mitigation. Doesn't have too much like looting effects, stuff like that. So sometimes it does happen that you're flooding and like going, oh man, I just give me any spell off the top, please. And in this case, it's just give me any land off the top, please. So this is a fun, switch up in the normal dynamic. But yeah, luckily, opponent whips off the top of my deck, and they just cannot really do anything. So I'm skip ahead a bit here. Oh, skip too far, I guess. Oops. Hold on a second. Oh, I skip to the exact right place. Yeah, there we go. So Emrakul, they're thinking about what to do. They really really give it some thought, and eventually they just go and fetch, and yeah, they throw the cat at the Johnny and pass, and I am able to untap, make a token with the Johnny, not a land on the top, it's just icing on the cake, but really not necessary. Ping them for one, throw the cat for one more, and that is lethal. And so I move on to the semifinals. And this hand, a bit weird, all two drops, but can't really mold this kind of thing. And instantly Herber comes down. I'm thinking, well, this is some sort of mono black coffers jank going on. Usually mono black decks right now are just Necrodominance decks, and so there aren't running Cabal coffers. But opponent seems to have missed the memo, and so here we are. And now I'm thinking, what two drop do I play? And I go for an Amp Raptor. The Aether Hub makes this a lot less awkward because usually you don't want to play Amp Raptor on two, or at least if you do, it's a little awkward because you can cast a 3-drop. And with by Aether Hub, the reason I'm running it in this deck is most uses that you can play Amp Raptor and hit a 3-drop because you have 3 energy. And we hit Flayed, which actually isn't a great 3-drop to hit because it's kind of slow here. It doesn't really advance the board state. Much rather have hit a Fable or something like that, and a Johnny, whatever, some 2-drop. And then immediately the Amp Raptor dies to a Bowmasters, and now my opponent clings the Flayed, which I'm honestly kind of fine about because it doesn't really have a ton going on. It's a little weird that they main phased it, to be honest, because maybe I fetch and they want to try to draw a card off it or something. Not really getting it back that turn, but it's fine. And now I don't have to worry about a second Bowmaster or something like that. Now going for the second Amp Raptor is a little awkward, so I think I just decided to play the Ajani, yeah. And I don't want to use up the Arid Mace since it could maybe get a Surveillance or something like that at some point. And they Fatal Push the Ajani, but that's fine. Given that they have the second one, I don't really care too much if the first one dies, and I just didn't want to play Amp Raptor on an empty board. If I hit like Village or something, that would be super awkward. I'd rather take it a bit slower. And then here it's interesting because I could try to hit something off Amp Raptor. I could just play a Johnny plus Marionette and probably have the second Johnny die as well. Really an interesting spot. I think I decided to lead on Amp Raptor just because there are a lot of hits I have that really open up this board state. Something like a Bombardment off the top would be huge. And I hit a Bowmasters, which is nice. Lets me start attacking. I do think this play is probably correct because I don't want to give the Coffers player too much time. They've missed their land drop, which means I need to kind of go pedal to the metal because with a Coffers and an Urborg, their mana is no longer linear. In fact, their mana production becomes closer to exponential once they hit land drops. So I really need to start getting things going. And right now I'm saving my second Ajani. Generally, in these kinds of matchups where your opponent has a lot of removal, you want to try to save an Ajani so you can play it later in the game, instantly flip it, kind of dome them for a bunch, or play it only once you have a way to instantly flip it so it's not exposed to removal. The first one I was pretty keen to just run out immediately into something because I had the second one, and that would kind of get my opponent a little off balance, force them to spend their mana while getting me a nice 2-for-1. But in this case, it's a little worse to do that. But I find what I'm looking for, a way to flip a Johnny here, and now my opponent is pretty dead. Now I'm worried about something like a Big March, getting him a bunch of life, so I don't really want to flip the Ajani. I want to, I do flip the Ajani. Yeah, I guess that's fair. I mean, my opponent on 2 lands, I do want to just kind of push the advantage. I think I was giving a lot of thought to that. And here, a lot of lands. That's fine. I think I play the Aether Hub here just to have some energy if I need to, or I could thin my deck. Probably no, yeah, I go for a bit of deck thinning. See, this is a spot where a second Surveil land would be good. I haven't really pulled the trigger on the second one because it's just so awkward when you draw them in your opening hand. But just the beatdowns were enough. Opponent couldn't find their land, and so we take down game 1. And now this, I'm really not sure what exactly to sideboard against Mono Black Coffer, since this is not a super popular deck. Thoughtseizes are kind of a slam dunk. And then I'm kind of questioning whether I want to keep in some removal spells. Cathania has to go. I cut a Village Rites because of Bowmasters. And I don't really want to cut my 3-drops because it's a pretty grindy matchup. I think I might end up not bringing in all my Thoughtseizes. Nixilis, also kind of a reasonable card. Not really sure how many creatures I'm supposed to expect. I cut the Fillage because of Graveyard Hate. But I think I don't board out too many fatal pushes now, and then I end up kind of regretting that and boarding out more later. I mean, actually, I guess that's a bit of a spoiler. But anyway, yeah, I think I trim a marionette here. Do I? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I can skip ahead a bit because I'm doing some hard thinking. Yeah, I think I board in some Obnixiluses. Ocelot Pride comes out on the draw against Bowmasters. That makes sense. And then Obnixilus is just nice because it seems like a grindy matchup. I don't like Obnixilus versus like the Mono Black Necro deck since Planeswalkers give them a good target if their Soul Spikes and Marches. But in this case, my opponent seems to be much less all in on that kind of thing. And so I'm kind of fine doing not just giving them like targets that I can't sack because I don't think that's a super big deal. I don't expect them to be running Necronomances. And here I draw my Fatal Push. It's not really good here, as you can see. I'm thinking about whether I want to play Guide or Ocelot, and I think I go with Guide because of Bowmasters. It's just super awkward to run Ocelot on the draw straight into Bowmasters. But, you know, Guide of Souls, a little bit awkward since I'm, on one hand, I want to play 2-drop, on the other hand, I want to play Ocelot probably to get it going. But, you know. And here, yeah, I think I probably just... Well, that's interesting, right? Because if I jam the Ocelot Pride, it's still just going straight into a Bowmasters, so I think I just land go after getting in for one, of course. If they wanted to Bowmaster and block, they would have to block with both, otherwise I'd be able to Bowmaster to save the Goddess Souls, which is why I felt fine doing so. But yeah, second Fatal Push here, and now it's getting a bit awkward with the pushes, and it's like my opponent hasn't played anything pushable. I've got a bunch of them stuck in hand. Kind of incentivized to sack this Bloodstained Wire. Playing out Bowmasters is really awkward, though, if they have a Bowmasters. I think I just decide against it. Decide to take things a bit slower. Do I? Oh, no, you know what? I actually do decide to go for Bowmasters, and my reasoning was, if my opponent has their own Bowmasters, then I'm going to want them to do this so that I can then play an Ocelot Pride without it dying to a Bowmasters. Bowmasters can get value either way, so I might as well just bait it. I'm thinking whether I want to get a Swamp or a Sacred Foundry. Basically, do I want to pay 2 life for the option of casting a red spell next turn if I draw it? I decide that I do, since my opponent doesn't seem like they're really going to pressure my life total much. And opponent has a Shield's Edict, which I was pretty surprised by, but, you know, that's fine. It's not really good into this deck because it has a lot of cheap creatures, but it does just get around me just jamming a bunch of tokens. And Goddess Souls is a really nice draw here. It means I can double spell Goddess Souls plus Ocelot Pride. Not quite City's Blessing, but, you know, that'll most likely be the case next turn. And this is just a lot going on. So I'm pretty happy to see that. And I think I started lagging a bit here, so I was trying to just close whatever I could to make my performance better, since I also had like Discord open and recording and whatnot. So yeah, here I am, closing all my tabs. And yeah, this Deluge was kind of just a massive killer because it just wipes my board and I have nothing going on. I'm missing Giganta here a bit. I accidentally didn't play Giganta, and I see this hand, I'm like, well, take the One Ring, leave them with a bunch of removal spells, and now I'm like, yeah, I definitely should not have this many Fatal Pushes. Demolition Field locally, the modern version, since it has fetches, can afford to run basics. This was happening to me in Historic, I'd be pretty tilted, because I didn't run any basics in the Historic deck, but it is what it is. And yeah, at this point, I'm just going, well, I have a lot of creatures that 2-for-1 removal, but I really need to find something before my opponent does. And spoiler alert, I suppose, I do not. The game drags out here just a bit, but they go for a Karn, and Karn down ticks, gets a 1 ring, I think, and at this point I'm pretty dead. I play with this game a little bit more just to see a little bit more from my opponent, but I don't really draw anything too relevant, and so I had to go for a Trauma Script, which I thought was really weird, but kind of supported me boarding out Flage, and I think I scoop it up pretty quickly here. And yeah, now you see me boarding out more Fatal Pushes, keeping in 1 in case I have Shieldred, but really, let me go back a sec to look at sideboarding a little more. They did that pretty quickly. Yeah, I boarded some more fatal pushes, bring another ob, and bring the Thoughtseize back in. I could have also boarded Ocelot Pride back. Yeah, because on the play Bowmasters is much less of an issue. And I like this sideboarding configuration a lot more since fatal pushes were super awkward there. Um, yeah. Oh, wow. This hand is really strong. So basically, what it does, I get to go turn 1 Ocelot Pride, and then turn 2 Thoughtseize to clear the way, and then second Ocelot Pride. That's just so much pressure. And then Bombardment plus Marionette. If I draw Phyrexian Tower, that's just a turn 3 kill. Just straight up a turn 3 kill. I'm pretty sure, but even with that, it's still a lot of damage. And Fatal Push, of course, not not showing up at the most opportune time, to be honest, but that's fine. And actually, Urborg lets me play this Thoughtseize without cracking my fetch, which is nice because I can leave that optionality to later. So I go for a Thoughtseize, see a hand of just not much, no Bowmaster, so I take the Bowmaster, second Ocelot Pride. I'm feeling pretty good about this. Unfortunately, my aggressive start was kind of stymied a lot by the Fatal Push, because if they hadn't Fatal Push, then I'd have 2/1/1s in play as well. But I'm still just thinking that this is totally fine. I think I get in with the Ocelot and probably play the Bombardment. I think I like playing Bombardment because I can double up tokens from Marionette. Though maybe I don't. Maybe I just value attacking with the Marionette. And they go for a Consuming Corruption here. Yeah, now, I mean, this was kind of a brutal draw because it just, the cat would have gotten the ball rolling really hard here, but unfortunately they just rip removal for it, and now they're just getting some value with this Cling to Dust, trying to get something going, and X out some cards that they've already played. But now I'm really just looking for some gas. The Fatal Push just being terrible again. Maybe I should have boarded down to 0, but I do assume that they would have some number of Shieldreds, and having an answer to Shieldred is kind of important. And then, a Johnny was just the literal best draw in my deck by so much here. I get to slam a Johnny, and even just attacking for 3 plus 2 with the Marionette is already a decent amount. With the Bombardment coming, it's also super nice. And actually also super nice that I can hold up this Fatal Push. And so if they try to kill the Ajani, I can kill my own cat. Sorry about that. I can kill my own cat to flip the Ajani and save it. And so now I can get a lot of pressure going, which I'm really happy about. And so now what I'm kind of worried about is a Wrath, of course. I'm counting if I have lethal, and I ascertain that I do not. I'm playing Bombardment pre-combat in case they have a Bowmasters, because that can make blocking weird if I don't have it. Yeah, I get in here. I get in for 5, and then I throw the cat at them for 2 more, and then I flip a Johnny, and then I make a 2/1, hit them for 3 more, put them to 10, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can only put them to 5 here, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that I will have lethal next turn, is what I figure out. And so I'm just praying that my opponent doesn't do anything. And I'm worried about, I was like thinking this. I hope if they don't have a Karn, because I know that's like one of their main pieces of top end. If they have a Karn, what are they getting? Probably a Pithing Needle to shut off Bombardment, which would let them Wrath the following turn pretty safely. And I mean, they take a second to think about it, but they slam a Karn here. Yep, here comes the Karn, and I'm thinking, oh god, well, this game went from really easy to potentially pretty tricky without my Bombardment. And then you get the One Ring, and I'm like, whoa, that's a little suspicious. So I'm thinking, I draw a land, unfortunately. I was really hoping to draw a spell, because any spell here kind of puts me like way over the line for lethal. I'm thinking, well, things are going to get much worse for me once this One Ring comes down. I gotta just send it. I hope my opponent doesn't have it. I hope they just miscounted my the amount of damage I can deal, or didn't have a Pithing Needle or whatever. For some reason. And, I'm like, well, ping you, flip a Johnny, make a token, ping you. And at this point, I'm thinking, well, I think I've got it, right? Like a March would get me because I could gain life off the Ajani. But if they have removal spell, they would have probably already cast it. So, I pinged them a bunch. And as it turns out, they just didn't have anything. And they hit me with the GGs. And I am so excited because this is I didn't know I was going to split the finals, but I was so happy. So yeah, that was my run. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you enjoyed this kind of style of commentary where I just go back and kind of talk about my decisions and what was happening. Definitely like a bit of a low budget experience. I don't know how I can like spruce it up with editing or whatever, but yeah, that was that. And if I play any more challenges, I'll probably do probably just record like the whole thing, or maybe even do live commentary if I'm not in VC or whatever. But just thought I'd put this out there since I did have the footage, and it was interesting. The the first match against Adrali was kind of crazy. The top deck Emrakul, I'm literally counting like all the creature types in the game. And I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense. If it was only 2 Scions, then sure, I still have like a bunch of pressure. But 3 Scions, like that's a lot. Losing 3 creatures, so I'm like, whatever. Hope they don't draw it, and they draw it, and I don't get punished. So that was a that was a relief. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. I will see you in the next one. Also, don't forget to check my Patreon. Links in the description. Bye.